Hi, and welcome to, well, usually it's real talk, but tonight we are having Shia's room. I know I put up the wrong banner, like Shia's room. Welcome to Shia's room. I am Beverly Briggs, your host. For those of you who may not understand why, uh, it's Shia's room, and I'm Beverly Briggs, your host. Shia is my first name, and for those who know me personally, know me Shia, and I wanted to do something that would the persons connect with persons that I know. So I am doing Shia's room now. Shia's room is the forum where persons are able to come and share their testimonies, their stories to help others. Tonight, I have with me a lovely lady. She celebrated her birthday on Sunday. She prefers not to be on camera. So you will be hearing her voice, but you will not be seeing her. She, just this weekend, I was speaking to a young lady, and she was telling me she was not planning to get married because of how marriages are going now. She doesn't want to get married. We have a 50% divorce rate in marriages now, and 50% of persons who would usually get married are not getting married. And this lady that is with me, she got married, but she made the right decisions and she had the right circumstances. And she also went through that time of grief when her husband died. After 28 years of marriage, he died from cancer. So we would be talking to her, she would be giving us her background, and she would be telling us what it is that she did that caused her marriage to work. Because you see, for me, I'm going through a divorce right now. And persons ask me, will you remarry? And I'm saying, yes, I believe that marriage could be a great thing. I just believe that we got to get it right. We have to get married at the right time, for the right reason, for the right purpose, to the right person. And so we want to know tonight what it is that she did that was so right, that allowed her to enjoy marital bliss for 28 years. So, good night. What do I call you tonight for our viewers?
Call me Alison.
You have to talk loud.
You call me Alison.
All right. So we are here with Sir Alison tonight, and I am in the lovely island of Tobago. You know how it is. We love for you to put your name and your comments, and I would recognize you. Right. So I am looking out for your comments. Yes. So Alison, we want you. You have to speak up since they can't see you. Yeah, speak loud so that the camera can pick up your voice. Give us a little background, of how you grew up.
Well, I was born in the beautiful island of Trinidad, Port of Spain to be exact. It was at the time the colonial hospital. So then when I use that term, you know how long ago it is. I was the only child for my mother. And I was also at the time when I was born, having children outside of wedlock was a big thing. So, in Trinidad, if you're born out of wedlock, on your birth certificate, it says that you are illegitimate. But in God's side, no one is illegitimate.
All right.
Because life comes from God. So I grew up with my mother until I was 8 years old. And then my dad, I would have to say, kidnapped me and brought me to Tobago to live with my grandmother in Scarborough. And then I left Scarborough and I went, and then I was transferred to Buku. So I grew
Right.
up in a fishing village in Buku where the whole village take care of you.
Okay.
And as a result, I never felt that I had lost a mother because there was so much freedom and fun and
Right.
nice. And in the days, living with grandparents or relatives was not a big thing. Everybody just get on, you know. I never really felt that I was different. Yeah. Um, yeah, and I went to Montgomery School, and I have even there friends still around that I went to school with. But then skipping through at the age of 19, I left Tobago and I went back to Trinidad because I became a Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
And from there, um, yes, as a young girl, I never, we were brought up thinking that you socialize and you generalize, but you don't specialize. So I had an adventure in my head. I wanted to see the world.
Okay.
Yeah. So looking to get married young was not a thing on my book at first. Yeah. And yeah, I left Trinidad and I went to England. And there I went into nursing and then into social work.
Nice.
I did in the process, I met a wonderful guy. And he pursued me for a number of months to go on a date. And eventually I did. And but in the back of my mind, you know, as you ask about marriage and falling in love, I didn't think I fell in love just then. I, you know, liked, you know, we went to parties and we danced. You know, he was a good conversationalist. He had traveled. He was in the RAF. You know, so he had some experience more than me. And I always say that I never wanted to marry anybody who is younger than me.
Right.
Because I feel if either younger than me or my age, we wouldn't make it because we'll fight. I was very, you know, very determined, very own way, liking my own way. But this guy, somehow he had the charm. He knew how to manage, how to deal with circumstances, and and I was also introduced to him on a blind date.
Right.
My aunt did that. Yeah. And she's the one saying, "Oh, you would like him." And I had just come back from holiday in America. And when I got back, she said, "But you come back." And there was a guy who would like me, who would take me to meet his family. But I realized that he wasn't going to be the right guy for me. And meeting this guy not soon after, you know, it was like he ticked all the boxes.
Okay. You know? So when you met this guy, it wasn't about butterflies and
no. That butterfly thing was when I was much younger. When, you know, they said when a girl changed her bobby socks for stockings. You know, butterflies was when I was reading schoolgirl magazines.
Right.
Yeah. Reading these things and having these fantasies and, you know, Mills and Boone book telling you about these love affairs and things. But at that time when I met him, I was 26, I think. Yes, like that. So I was more mature. So it wasn't about butterflies. It was seriousness.
Right.
You know, I had, you know, looking for the qualities in the individual.
Okay.
Because one of the things that the old folks says that if you meet someone and you see that person, that guy is good with his mother and treat his mother well, you know that he's going to treat the wife well.
Right.
Not a mummy love spoiled boy, but somebody who is have all rounded and disciplined. So yeah, and he was that guy. He was wise, you know, and knew how to deflay any difficulties that may come up. Even on you know, the day after I got married, and I started sitting down over my freedom is gone, everything, and he was able to say, so what you want? You still want to run around? Understand? So that was the kind of thing, so yeah. But he was, getting to know him, we went around for 2 years. And getting to know him, he was the person who, he was like my father. He was like my mother, my sister, my friend, my fiancé, my boyfriend, my lover. He was that kind of guy, and he was very good at lovemaking too. So you understand? You see?
So let us back up a little bit, because there's something that we often talk about, even on Real Talk or whatever show that I am on, and that is the importance of support, a support system. There's a saying that a village raise a child. Yes. And you find there's so much of different effects a motherless child can take place on a motherless child. And because you had this great support system, you were able to live a normal life.
Well, in a way, because my mother died when she was I was 21 when she died, and I did not grow with my mother. I mean, I grew with her until I was 8 years old. And the Catholics have a saying: "Give me a child until they're 7 or 8, and then you would see, the child what to come out of that." So I believe that in those formative ground years, she did a very good job. So it gave me the foundation. Was a foundation of love. Everything that she had went into this one single child that she had. And then I'm going to meet somebody who also is a single child. The man I married, he was the only child. No brothers, no sisters.
Yes.
Then I had half. Half a brother and half sisters, but then somebody told me recently there are no half. One is the same father, is no half. That's a whole.
That's a whole. So I just give me a second. Sorry for cutting you. I just want to say, someone said, "Good day, ladies. Hi." Just pop in your name. We are seeing Facebook user, and I would love to know who is shouting out. Iffy, Wagwan, everything good, boy. I'm here in Tobago chilling with Sister Alison as she gave us her story. And for those of you who may be wondering why you're not seeing her, is she feels better letting her voice be heard. So yeah, go ahead with this. Sorry for cutting you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So as a result of that, as I said, the qualities that I looked out for, plus I had, even though I'm leaving the island of my birth and traveling to a strange country, which was England at the time, it was, cold and damp and gray and all these things, and then I had no intention of marrying abroad. I went abroad to come back in 5 years and marry a Trini. I always think a Trini, no other man in the world could give you a nice time but a Trini man, And here am I going to find, well, they find me, I don't know how it is, but I believe God has a way of directing, So marrying this guy, his origination was from Barbados,
Okay.
And there used to be a thing about saying about Barbadian men, how they're stingy and how they this and that.
Okay.
So I was looking out for all those things, whether he's saying, and I say, well, Trini will take you out, he will buy you drinks, he will treat you, and and the Trini, if you have a boyfriend, he will take you down Frederick Street and then he'll buy you gifts and things. So these kind of things I had, but then having traveled, your paradigm shifts. And you begin to get serious about things and you look about things, So so the people who came in and fell in where there was no mother and father was work colleagues, those who are older than me, and my age group. And
Right.
they, introducing to this guy, although they were a little bit hesitant at first. This guy that I'm, they
Right.
would kind of tell me, careful, because these guys,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of women, a lot of nurses I met who had gotten married and
Mm-hmm.
marriage failed to them,
Right.
because the men failed them for one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but here am I, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and the thing about it, the friend of mine who was, gave a tip for him, saying,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this guy, everybody deserves a second chance, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Her marriage was going on the rock too.
Okay.
You understand? And she was
Mm-hmm.
from Barbados. But the
Mm-hmm.
way this guy that I got married to, whose
Hmm.
name um, is Ricky, for
Right.
short, I said, nah, the way this guy treats you, the way he
Mm-hmm.
look after you, he will come and meet me when I'm working, he will come and pick me up, if and even in marriage, he never stopped doing that. He would call me every day, 2, 3 times a day. We will
Mm-hmm.
communicate on the phone. And when we got married, it still continued. When I'm
Right.
at work, he would still continue to call and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I tell you, the kind of person he is, he would get up in the morning before,
Mm-hmm.
while I'm getting ready for work, and he'd go out and he would start the car and warm it
Mm-hmm.
up. So when
Mm-hmm.
I get out there, because it's winter, it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
The car is warm and nice. He'll make a cup of tea. He will do
Right.
things. So
Guys, I hope you're listening.
yeah, so you make that, and then
Yes.
so if I had to go anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
he will drop me and he'll come back and pick me up.
Mm-hmm.
He would open the doors, for me when I get
Right.
in the car, just the things. So he had all
Yes.
those niceties about him,
Mm-hmm.
before we actually decide that
To get
thing.
right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
with all those things, and then old folks. So as I said, I was grew up with some of the old folks, so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
old saying was in my head from
Right.
home. So they came into play, plus the mature ones who were in England who
Mm-hmm.
gave their advice and things. So yeah, and there was support, and I didn't have no big fantastic
Wedding.
wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, it was like old time wedding where they,
Mm-hmm.
long time when they used to get married to people. This one will bring sheep, that one will bring
Mm-hmm.
goat, this one will cut, and they'll cook the food together.
Yeah.
But this is what happened. But in a modern way, in that
Mm-hmm.
they will who cook chicken or fried chicken, who make potato salad, who make
Mm-hmm.
this, and everybody brought a dish and came
Okay.
forth on the day of my wedding. Who baked the cake,
Mm-hmm.
who iced the cake, and it was just done in my aunt's living room. But that was where we had the ceremony, and there was no big set of um, money spending out.
Right.
So I realized that you don't have to have a big show,
Mm-hmm.
to have a good wedding. And I think they that those people who supported me then supported us right
Throughout.
through,
Mm-hmm.
because there were times, with the children, on a Sunday or a weekend, we go and they cook food and say, come over,
Mm-hmm.
bring the family and come.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, the network was a good network to fall
Yes.
back on,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no sibling to come in and make any kind of confusion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, his mother also, she was a senior person, and she died not long after.
Okay.
So therefore, it was just the two of us,
Right.
just
Okay.
the two of us.
You
you
can
know,
make it if you
we can,
try.
yes, and it was just the two of us,
Yes.
and and then he didn't have wealth. We
Hmm.
both worked. We started from scratch,
Okay.
because we had a flat,
Mm-hmm.
and even and it was at the period time there was a period of time when where England had a 3-day week, work,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of people didn't have money, just similar to what we are experiencing, although there was no sickness and people dying, but
Yeah.
there was a meltdown where finance and thing was concerned, the union
Mm-hmm.
thing. And because he was an engineer, he was very good at building radios or fixing televisions or doing anything.
Okay.
So we would make, we'll resurrect things, from that may go to the dump, we will resurrect it.
All right.
So we started off that, but we had an aim, and I had a plan in my head what I wanted to do, and he buy into my plan.
All right.
And so we worked together, pool our resources together. His work was 9 to 5. I had the flexibility of working around. So I would do night duty. So when one is in, so this is the thing about the family, no two people going to be out at the same time. So the children was always had that support, either daddy home or mommy home.
They were covered.
We were covered. Yes. So that made not just the relationship between us, but with also the children. And then something else he said to me, and in the early stages before he said, Alison, whatever comes our way, do not allow the children to come between us. And even today, my kids will say, Mom, you and Dad was the force, So if at anything, he was the head, and I was the supporting. But if they misbehave or do anything, I'm not waiting until he comes. I'm not saying when Daddy come home. No. If I have to chastise, he was more the softer side. I was more the disciplinarian.
Okay.
You understand? So they will get it. But they can't come to me with something.
Right.
And then go to Dad and do something and expect that the Dad will think. The Dad will say to them, did you talk to your mom? And then I would say, did you talk to your dad? Right. So we go from one and they say, well, Dad says so. I say, well, and they go back and say, well, then you go to. And then they come and say, Mom says so. And they say, well, let him, whatever your decision, your mom come. So that was, we had a unified, we talked things through before.
Right.
What we would like. Respect for one. So because respect is earned, it's not forced upon. So if you want to speak to me, you will not put me down or ridicule me in front of the children. Right. You understand? So it was never that kind of negativity. Or, because, sometimes people say, oh, you stupid woman or you stupid man. Those things have an
very
effect,
mindful of what was said.
Yeah. So we were very constant. If we had anything that we disagree about, he would be the one who would say, okay, he would lie down. And he said, all right, he give me a chance to belt my feelings. But then by the time I finish, blow my steam, he's snoring on the chair. And therefore there is no more confrontation because it's done,
Right.
So he was wise. He was just a wise guy who knew how to handle the situation.
Right.
And I learned a lot from him. He was my teacher. He taught me a lot. And I guess because he was also he was in the RAF, so he had the military background. He had traveled extensively. He lived in Singapore. He was in the jungles of Borneo. He was in Germany. He was in Famagusta, which is, he was in all those things. He was, even when he went into South Africa in the time of apartheid and when Ian Smith declared UDI. So he had traveled extensively. So he knew how to handle it. And he was a handsome fella. So, the girls liked him. Married or unmarried. But when he met me, one of his aunts used to say, Ricky, boy, I can clip your wing, Understand? So he sat her down and we had a good life together. And it was nice. I enjoyed every moment. And then we came back to Tobago. Let's imagine we went to Barbados and to looking and planning for retirement. And going there, realized that going to Barbados to live is might as well stay in England and live because the cost of living in Barbados is so high. So when we came to Tobago, he fell in love with Tobago. And that's how I'm back in Tobago. Yes.
Before we move on, so I just want to recap some things so that we can get this right. So I mentioned having a great support system.
Yes.
As a thing. So, we had a program, a read earlier on, a read talk program where we were discussing, the importance of being whole and marriage and stuff like that. And the thing came up that about arranged marriages. And that we think that, okay, that's a cultural thing from back in time, or in the Middle East, or and we really don't. I want to be able to choose my own. But for persons like myself, who my mother said, Shia, do not get married at that point in time, for the reasons that now I'm divorcing, I didn't see back then. They being wise.
Yes,
and having that wisdom to be able to see and to know, this person is good for you or not good for you. And we prefer to make the choice of somebody who
you feel,
make you butterfly, give you butterflies, and you have all these feelings. But now you are showing us that being able to have those that get support, those persons that play that role of support in your life, being able to come and say, hey, this is a good person for you, what played a really major role in your marriage working out. Also being able to sit down and have expectations for sit down and say, okay, here's what I plan to do. Here's my expectations. Being able to see that your expectations were working with each other. This was also an important thing to do that helped your marriage, from what you have said.
Yes, you have to talk about. You see, one of the things that Ricky always said to me, he used to say, Alison, I can't read your mind. Neither can you read mine.
Right.
So communication was necessary. Communication is necessary. Because if you are thinking something and you do not verbalize it, how is the other person to know? And often they say that, well, you should know. No, you can't. So it's important to talk about them, and if you have aims and objectives, you see where you can meet, and you meet each other, along the way. So that is what is really important to do that. To be able to put your cards on the table,
right,
up front. This is what I'm expecting. What you expect from me,
right?
You understand?
Right,
and because often we go in this butterfly business, like that lives and moon place, and that is Hollywood. They come and they tell you. That's why Hollywood having this jumping in and jumping out. But marriage is an experience that you got to remember that there's no one that is perfect.
Right.
Yeah. And the two people coming from different culture and background coming together, you have to have some kind of a guideline,
right,
where you can follow. Because here it is, I'm coming from Trinidad, a culture that like party and this and that, and I'm coming, and then there's a guy coming from Barbados who has traveled, who have a different direction in life.
right.
You see? So how come that two people can make it if you don't have a plan?
Right.
You understand? And that plan may be a rota. You know what I mean? So say for instance you have a rota, how are you going to work? Like when you go to work, you're working in an environment, you have 7 people. You have on that rota who's going to work morning shift, evening shift, late shift, or night shift. So therefore you know what is coming next. You see? And if you don't have that rota, or actually an itinerary of what you would like to do, this is how far I reached, this is how we're going, and you're working together. Who is going to do this and who is going to do that. But even though the roles may be how you can say identified, that doesn't say you can't have a crossover.
Right.
So say, okay, we're having some friends over for dinner tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's both of you together. The friends, it may be your work colleague, but your work colleague and friends become your husbands, or vice versa. So the friends is a communal friend between the two people involved. So when they come and we eat and we drink and night and really say good night, at the end of the day, there's dishes to wash, and they say, yeah, I'm not going to turn around and say, well, it's your friends, I ain't cleaning up. No, we working together.
Right.
We go to the shop, we buy the thing, what the menu is going to be like. So when they finish, we're working, we clean up the dish, we clean up, wash up, put away, and then turn off the light, and both tired and drained, and we go on to bed. You know what I mean? You understand? But if we turn around and say, I go to bed, you know. And then another thing too is that often people take their work home. But when you leave work, that's when something gets healing. When he learned his work finished there.
Right.
You know, he's not bringing it home to talk about work. I'm not bringing work home to talk about it. When we come in with different, we have to have difference of things. You see?
Right.
So here am I coming from a humanistic point of view, which is nursing and social work, and he is coming from an engineering.
Make sure that
and he's come from engineering. So we can talk when they get there. There's something to talk about. So how would your day go? You know, and everything. And we had that kind of you were able to talk about things. You know?
Right. So communication was
very,
also,
you know, and then things I tell you what we put the children to bed, and you know, I'm on the toilet. You know, and this is a little bit private now. You know, and we're talking about the plans for tomorrow. So I might be sitting on the toilet and he's sitting on a chair in the toilet. So we're talking there. Or I might be in the shower and he's in, and you know, he might be in the shower and we're talking about so and so. So it was always we were always in a constant communication.
Right.
You know, so there was no one I'm going to take up the newspaper and sit down and put up my leg and I want to think. No, that was not kind of
I had a hard day and so you know I talked to so many persons and right now I'm not feeling like talking. I just want to watch TV.
You have to leave that. You know, you got to tell yourself, hey, I have this man, I have this woman. She needs my attention. So you got to pay attention.
Right.
You know, when the birthdays come around, the holidays come around, you know, you remember one another.
Right.
And you treat one another. And you don't necessarily have to wait because he didn't do it for me, I'm not doing it for you. No, it's about, it's two of us. So whoever have the energy more can carry on. You know? So that was it was communication is a very, very key factor to talk about because I cannot get into your mind.
Right.
And you cannot get into my mind. And there's no perfect man and no perfect woman.
No.
You know, if you want a perfect man, it had to be a glass man that you had to make it.
Right.
Yeah? Or woman, vice versa. Yes, you do have a little bit of warmness in the chest of love and thing, you know. But that's it, you know, and then, you know what he likes, so Vincent, you know, say love me king, you know, I mean, you know, if one is good at night and the other one is not good. So you meet one another and say, well, yeah, you know, because when they do it, I can't go to work, you know, because some people like early morning and some like late night. If it's late night, I can't go to sleep because my energy turn up, I can't go further. So let's meet somewhere, you know. So you got to, you know, you have to know.
Because, you know, oftentimes you hear it's especially, will I say, talk like, you know, sex with women is not so much important, but sex with men is important. So when a man wants sex, just give him sex. So what you are really saying, even sex is something that you probably discussed before marriage too, and when you do get married, it's something that you do together.
Oh yeah.
It's not just about a feeling.
No, it's not
and
feeling.
I want it, but it's both of us, and we want to enjoy this experience and enhance our relationship, right?
You know, the only time you're gonna have be like the rabbits, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? It's holding hands, a cuddle, you know, a nice close, you know, and it's about making time to make that moment, an enjoyable moment,
Right.
that you can't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so everything has to be at the right time and the right
Mm-hmm.
place. You know, you get up in the morning, you know, go in the shower and calm down if you want. You know what I mean? You understand? You know, but I'm
Mm.
just saying is that everything is a thoughtful process.
Right.
What makes
Mm-hmm.
my woman feel good? What makes my
Mm-hmm.
man feel good? You
Mm-hmm.
know his soft spot, his weak spot, her weak spot. You
Mm-hmm.
know, tender moments, that kind of thing.
Right.
Because if you are tired
Mm-hmm.
and you're drained, or you may be on your periods,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever because I've heard people talk, even on their periods, the husband have no
Mm-hmm.
sympathy. And at that
Mm-hmm.
time, the woman's breast is tender, she feels all
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So the man needs to be wise
Right.
also and be aware of his partner's
Mm-hmm.
feelings, and where they are,
And vice
and
versa,
vice
because we have
versa.
some very
Men,
aggressive women
yeah,
also too, eh?
yeah, men also have their
Yeah.
time, because
Mm-hmm.
you can't keep going at it all the time. It's like if you have a
Mm-hmm.
bad new car and every you drive, boom, 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 boom. You have to, space it out.
Yes.
It's people. I think sex is a beautiful thing that God gave us,
Mm-hmm.
but people take it out of context and see that is
Mm-hmm.
the only thing. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
only thing involved. It's about the mind is a mind factor, is a
Mm-hmm.
mindset of um of pleasing one another,
Right.
and each person coming to a point of climax.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take long for climax, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a pre because you don't want to rush into something and then you finish, the man finish, or you
Mm.
and he or can't get
That's
his thing. So then frustration is inside the thing. Then you
right.
feel like you want another man or you want another woman
Mm-hmm.
or inside the bed, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's worked on, thought out, and
Mm-hmm.
the process, hey, you're not planning out and say, well, tonight we're gonna have sex. It
Mm-hmm.
comes as a moment, as the feelings and the time, and they often say for a woman, it has to be in a right situation, a right mood. So you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna set the mood. If you as a woman feel okay, you're feeling uh that you want a bit of the stuff, you
Mm-hmm.
set the mood. You
Right.
set the
Mm-hmm.
stage,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa.
Right.
The man
Mm-hmm.
set the stage just as well because maybe
Mm-hmm.
sweet talking you're washing the dishes, might touch your bum or put a
Mm-hmm.
little smack on your neck, I mean,
Right.
so from that time,
Mm-hmm.
he's looking for something, and you too working up your mind. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
that's sweet and nice and lovey-dovey,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And then eventually you finish your work and you come
Mm-hmm.
together, and but we enjoy each other and fall
Mm-hmm.
asleep sweet and nice, and you get up together and you go to work and
Yes.
things. So it's communication, not only just in talking, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
communication body language.
I hear a theme. I hear a theme throughout your story, your testimony that you have been given us, and that theme is thoughtfulness. When you talk about sex, when you talk about your expectations, when you talk about working together, when you talk about communication, the underlying key uh, to success in each one of these areas was thoughtfulness.
Yes.
And it brings me back to the place where you said one of the key things that you looked at is how he was thoughtful towards his mother. You paid attention to how he treated his mother, how he spoke to his mother. And so that when you did get married, thoughtfulness was one of the things that was the ingredient that was there that caused your marriage to work. Yeah.
It's a lot of putting. It's a lot of thinking process.
Right.
What and your expectation. You do have to, you must have a goal. They would tell you that you aim for the sky, but if you fall on the treetop, you still meet. But if you have no goal at all, you're not getting anywhere. So there's no guideline. So you do have to, but marriage is a wonderful blessing. And I would tell anybody that, you know, man or woman, it is better to fall in love because, and falling in love is not just today and anything. It's a process because every day, every year, every moment you spend together, you fall in love with the individual. So it's not, oh, I see a guy, I like him, and that's it. Oh, boy, you made my, yeah, nice. No, and this body, oh, my heart go. No, it's because marriage is work. You know, it's like you bought a beautiful plant, and you
to make sure I hear.
yeah, you have a beautiful plant. You know that you buy. It's young and it's tender. Yeah. And you bring it home and you spend so much money for it. You're gonna take time to care. That plant will need watering.
Right.
It would need moving to the sunlight. It would need, you know, clipping the leaves and so that. So it's the same thing with marriage. It's a lot of work.
Right.
You know, it don't feel like that when you get married and you say yes I do.
Right.
That's the end and be all of it all. No, sir. You have to put some work in it. You know, if you don't put any work in it, it's not one thing, and it comes from both parties. Both people have to be in it together. You know, and then there was no hiding place. So again, you know, anything he do, like for instance, bank account. If you know, I knew how much he worked for. He knew how much I worked for. We know the money, but you know, okay, this will be spent for that. That will be spent. So there was no hiding, and that is my money.
To becoming one, right?
We became one.
Yes, it was one relationship, one family, one
family,
one purpose,
one purpose in it. So you know, and there was no yeah, we would never hide from anything. It was an open thing. And I think that also is another key factor. Because often people say, but it's I work with my money, I spend my money and this thing. Or you're taking your money and you're minding your own family, your mother and your sister and your brother, and you're leaving your marriage life. Bible says when you leave your mother and your father, you two become one. You understand me? There's no mother and father thing. Yes, you're going to honor them and respect them. But if both people working together, you will honor both parents.
Right.
You know, so the husband's mother become my mother. And the wife's mother become the wife's mother become his mother. You know, and so that is you want it. If I want it for you as my mother, yeah, I want it for my mother just as well. Right. You see, so that was the whole thing. So whatever I do for this mother A, I would do for mother B.
Right.
You understand me? So there would have been no discord and say, well, you're only doing everything you say your mother, and you know. So my mother-in-law was my mother as well. And then I didn't have a mother, so he didn't have to do with that. So you know, so he had to deal with that. You know? Yes. So you know, yeah, marriage is worth it. But I think the young people of today need to get off the track of Hollywood and Bollywood affairs, you know, and go back to the grassroots, you know, because what happened to the older folks who stayed in marriage for donkey years? Take, for instance, the royal family. You think they have teeth and tongue live in the same house, but they don't come out and say, the tongue can't come out and say, well, I ain't going there because you bite me. You're staying inside there, you know. And other thing is that another thing
before we go on though, and I do hear you, and I really do think that a lot of persons jump out of marriages for the wrong reason. I think that we have this thing that, you know, we can't jump in easily and jump out just as easily. However, you know, even with doing this program, you find that there are a lot of women, especially, and men, who are under abuse.
Okay.
And so we want you to know that we are not advocating for persons to stay in abusive situations.
No, not at all.
At all. Because, sometimes we give these advice and it falls on the wrong heads.
Yes.
The persons who were supposed to hear it, it passed them.
Yes.
And the ones who are under the abuse is the ones that hear, stay no matter what.
No,
and so we want you to know that we are not advocating for abuse in any kind of form, whether it be towards a woman, whether it be towards man, whether it be emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. We are not advocating for that, but we are saying
respect
that
is important.
Right. You are not going to get everything the way you want it.
No.
And you don't just jump out of marriage just because things doesn't work the way that you want it. You have to stay and fight. It's not a quick fix.
No, there's no quick fix. No quick fix in marriage. In any relationship, be it brother and sister, mother and father, or friend, or it is. There's no quick fix in any relationship.
Right.
You have to work at it. It's a giving and taking. It's a cat and a horse situation.
Right.
And as I said, if there is no respect for each other, then you will find abuse.
Right.
Is when respect is not there, then you would abuse each other.
Right.
Emotionally, physically, you understand, socially, you understand, whatever lead, but once there's respect, because even in a work environment, if you think about it, if I'm working in the same office with you, and you don't respect me and I don't respect you, there's going to be some form of abuse down the line.
Right.
You see? So you just have the thing, the close proximity now of husband and wife in the same bed, in the same house. And if you can't respect each other in a relationship, what are you doing to the offspring, the children?
Right.
Because they too will come up and realize, and you're giving them wrong vibration.
Right.
You see? So it is important to establish that at the beginning. What I expect of you, you do not, I something as I said, which I didn't say before, and I was saying, when I met my husband, I said to him, I said, listen, I know that we're in the Caribbean, men like to feel that I'm the boss, I'm the head. And then many of them, they want to tell you this and talk to you and anyhow and show you up and abuse you in the road and things. I said, this is something I'm not doing. And then not that they like to hit. And I tell him, I say, well, my father beat me twice. Once to eat red beans, and the other time it was because the thing called therefore, if then and therefore, it was arithmetic. And I tell him, I said, in marriage, I say there's no father figure here. It is two human beings coming together. So I'm not going in a ball game with you, a bat and ball. No cricket going on. You're not gonna bowl me and I bat you, or vice versa.
So I just want to interject here a little bit. My son say hello. Hi, DJ Lani. I hope you are listening and taking in the advice that is being given tonight so that you can have a wonderful marriage in the future. Now, I often joke with him and tell him that he's not getting married until he's 60. But even if it's up to age 60, you are taking in the advice given here tonight. Yes. So
yes.
Yeah.
So young people and people who are contemplating marriage is wonderful. Don't think it's bad because you see that other people may not be enjoying or look as though they're lovey-dovey business. There are people who are having quite nice lovey-dovey relationship and long lasting. And there are times, yes, circumstances may get out of hand, but then you have to look for it. It's it's important to pay attention to body language. and to listen out for the bells. There are bells that will ring in your head and say, "Hey, this is not how I need to go down the road. This is not what I have to do," and you got to highlight it before it gets out of hand. And sometimes it's not highlighted, and it keep on going along, merry-go-long. Even like a river has a time when it's flowing a lot, and the time when it's low. You know, and so when it's low tide, you can afford to go in and walk across and do things. But when it's high tide, you have to take your time because you know very well you can get swept away with it. So in life and in relationship, you have that. There are days when it'll be ebbing and flowing, and then our minds is a mysterious place. Because we can come up with foggy ideas. If you're in a fog, you can't see beyond. So you have to take precaution with that fog until it passes. But you keep going, you still keep, but you take pressing forward carefully. And it's the same thing with marriage life, if this is for me. I put these things, and I guess two. One has to read a lot. It's important that you stimulate your mind in so that there will be things that you could have in common. You can talk with. Not to come in and sit down by television and watch all the time. And the same. You should have other interests that you can talk about, and I think that's what kind of dry up relationship when because I remember talking to a young lady and she said, I'm not a very good conversationist. You only have, they said she's not a very good conversationist. I said, but you have to learn to read, get yourself involved. Always reading, always looking at things, finding out, and you're living an information age. You find something, you say, oh, just jump up, you talk about it. Yeah. And especially if you're a Christian, you should even be wiser in doing things, And another thing which is important, not that I'm pushing, but you can't build a relationship if there's no God in it. If God is not in the relationship, it will go funky. So you got to learn to know how, both parties have to be involved in praying for one another and praying together, So prayer, having a nice prayer life and a family life, and devotional time, looking at things, it broadens your mind. With God in it, it broadens your mind, broadens your concept of life. And you realize it's not about the outlook. Because you'll get old in marriage. Your face is not going to look the same. You're going to, especially when you get pregnant, your body, you're going to go out of shape. The man is going to get older, and he will lose his libido, going to drop a little bit. You understand me? So the idea when you think when you're going like rabbit before, you have to calm down now. You understand?
And still have to learn to live with each other.
And you have to learn to live with each other. So because things like men sometimes have diabetes, and when they have diabetes, it affects their function. So you in a married life later on in life have to say, look, okay, we made 6 or 7 children, how much time we were doing it when we were young, and he's get there not because he can't function anymore. You're gonna run out leaving, and vice versa for the woman. So a lot of things come into the way of marriage, but because you've got to remember that you take an oath, and the oath is that in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer, you promise that, and that promise is in the sight of men and in the sight of God. And often we feel that we can go to the courts and say marriage is out, but you got to remember it's not out in the sight of God, because He said when you marry, until death
do us part.
You understand?
Yes.
And that is the whole thing.
on that note, on that note, I want to say hi to Kay, who is taking it in from on YouTube. K34129. That's what I'm seeing. Hi, Kay. And I don't know, but when you're having fun and you're having a wonderful conversation, the time just flies, and it's almost to the hour. It's 5 minutes to the hour. So we just Sister Alice, she had a wonderful 28 years of marriage. And sadly, she came and she lost her husband to cancer. So we are just going to give you a brief we are just going to give she's just going to give you a brief um summary of how she was able to get through her grief, her grieving time, when her husband died.
Grieving.
And somebody said, Mama, I would believe that is my youngest daughter. Hi, nice that you all are tuning, because I would love for you to have lasting relationships in your life. So I hope that you are really listening to Sister Alice tonight, because she is giving really great advice. Yes, tell us how you got through that grieving process.
I think I've come to terms with it. With friends, people who were there. I didn't go for counseling, although it was offered. I didn't go for counseling, but friends were there who just made me realize how much they care. They, their support, and what for me, I found that with the loss of my husband, it drew me closer to God. And I found strength more in time of prayer. I remember one day I was in my flat, and my daughter said to me, she said, Mommy, I know how you feel. I said, yeah. Because they realized I was, I used to feel like going into a corner, don't want to move on, I couldn't make decisions. I was, once when I was a person who was a go-getter.
Right.
And then losing him, because it was so quick, and so fast, that I found it hard to make decisions at first, should I not, should I, and but as the time went by and as the years climb on, because now it's going into how many years now? It will be 18 years this year since he passed. But in the moments and time, I found comfort in the Word of God and in prayer. And I found that there are times I'll be walking and I feel so low, and then, like my son would say to me, Mommy, you need to live. I know we get able to move on. You need to get on and live. Don't wait to die, because I was preparing for death. And I found myself later on in years thanking God for the experience of, such painful grief and loss, because it drew me closer to Him.
Right.
It drew me closer to understand, and in the spending more time in reading the Word of God. So, I realized when God says that, thou shalt have no other gods before me, and sometimes we can put our wives or husband or children, in the forefront, and then God is on the back burner. So they, when the Bible says, blessed are those who mourn, so it is really a blessing, because it gives you that broken and contrite heart, because there is, no other one. Nobody knows. No human being can tell you, And when the Bible says, weeping will endure for a night, but joy come in the morning. And I still, even in these number of years, there are times I go back a little bit, in reflection, because it was a good relationship. Possibly if it was a bad relationship, I would say good riddance, but it wasn't. You know, I was
Right.
blessed, and I thank God for the blessing. But friends and people who have a walk with God can help you on. You know, good friends who are there, who are able to observe and see, not necessarily coming to, you know, you know, they were just there. People were just there. And, you know, family and friends, you know, they were just there, and they were who I can lean on, you know, in a literal sense, you know, like, you know, they will cook food, or they will take me out to dinner, or they would take me on a coach trip, or they go somewhere. They're making sure that I'm being part of it, so they never left me alone, you know. And it's good to have good friends, friends who will love you and will be with you in the good times
And
as well as in the bad times. You know, those will not depart from you. And some have gone on to sleep. No, when I say sleep, gone, you know, died. You know, and there are a few still left around. And more, and being in a household of faith, it broadens, because you know, even like my birthday was on Sunday, as you mentioned.
Do you want to share with us how old you?
Well, God has given me 72 tickets.
Okay.
You know,
and guys, she looks fine for her 73. I wish that she was on here live with me, like in person, where you can see her. We do have to respect her wishes, but she looks awesome for her 73. Yes.
When I mention that, people say, "What 73 you talking about? You're telling a lie." Yeah, I thank God for His, you know, for His love, His grace, His mercy, and I just want to say to young people, you know, I'm not pushing religion. I just say take God first, you know, and if you let God be the leader and the guide in your life, everything you touch, even though it may seem things, it will turn to gold, because He promises that, you know. Put Him first, which is something I did at the age of 19, and He didn't let me down. Today, I'm pleased to share with you. I mean, there are more intimate things I can tell Trent, but that can't go on the internet, you know. Like,
yes,
you know,
the time would not permit us tonight, and I started Shia's Room on a program called Unscripted Voices, and Unscripted Voices is something that I want to be able to continue to support, and they start at 8 and now it's 8:02, so I do have to wrap up, and I do encourage others to tune into Unscripted Voices. It's a platform where you are able to go on, and when you go on, they give you your topic and you have to talk for 5 minutes on that topic. So it helps you to develop your ability to do motivational speeches. And so in support for them, I know I do have to wrap up. So here's it. We want to say, firstly, thank you, Sister Alison, for giving your story. I know, listen, guys, I know that I had originally advertised Malit, God, look, I saying the name wrong. Sorry. Another person for this evening, and from Jamaica, who had her own struggles, and were how we were to speak about how she got through her grief also. You know, she have a really a similar story, and because I am in Tobago, is the reason why she was not on tonight, but she will be on in a later program. I promise that story will be on. And so Sister Alison came in. I literally asked her today, y'all. And so I am so happy that she came and she gave us the advice that she gave us. So this is what I want to summarize for us tonight. We have so many marriages. Again, if I go with the statistics, 50% of the marriages are ending in divorce. 50% of marriages that used to take place are now not taking place because persons are saying, listen, this makes no sense. Marriage is a wonderful thing. And as there are lots of persons, like Sister Alison, who can testify that it is a wonderful thing. So it is up to us to find out where we are going wrong and to make it right. And I just want to recap on some of the things that she did right that allow her to have a long and lasting marriage. And that is one. The one thing that we always advocate for on Real Talk or in Pearl Foundation is support. Be that support. Be that person, that mother for that motherless, that father for that fatherless, that person that can be help a person that is oppressed to overcome. Be that person for someone, because throughout her entire story, from start to end, it was a friend, it was a family member, it was the support of persons that got her through. Two, she was able to listen to that because she trusted in those persons who have been there for her. She was able to listen to that. When she met that person, it was not about butterflies and feelings. It was not about physical looks. It was about an intelligent decision, which was encouraged by persons who love her, by that aunt who love her. And in making that decision, she made a correct decision. Three, it was very important for her to see the interaction he had with his mother and to know that he was a thoughtful person. And so we don't just jump in because somebody sounds good, they say things good, they're doing things for us, they have money, they have house, they have land. No. Marriage is something that you have to think through. And you have to make sure that you are making the right decisions for the right reasons. And so one of the things that is encouraged, look at how that individual is treating their mother or their father, their interaction with their family, how thoughtful are they? Because this, as we were saying before, it is important to have, it's important to have good communication. It is important to have expectations, but it is important, most of all, to be thoughtful in everything that is said and that is done. And that's even, as we discussed, in the bedroom. When it comes to sex, we have to be thoughtful. I just, as I move on, I just want to show you up. Ooh, they can't see it. I wish I could put it in a way that you can see it, but the lighting does not make it possible because it's a picture of her husband and her two children, a really adorable picture. I wish you all could see it, but I would try to get it on I would put it in the comments later on. So you can see the lovely picture that she has of her husband and children. Yes, another thing is make sure that you are not getting in for what you can get, but you are able to sit down and discuss what it is you are expecting and looking for and hoping for within the marriage, so that when you go in, you know there is a plan. A lot of marriages go bad because, okay, you get into a marriage and now you recognize your partner do not want any children and you want children. Or you get in and you recognize that your partner want to do this job, and you was expecting that probably you would spend more time together. And so these things, it is important to discuss these things and to know exactly what is expected and what you expect, so that when you get in your marriage and you, in order to become one, your expectations are able to come together. Another thing we learned within this story is that a lot of times we are sold on a good wedding and not a great marriage. And so if we can have the best looking dress and the best looking bridesmaids and groommen, and we can have a Hollywood wedding, it doesn't matter if we even know what it is we're looking forward for in the marriage. But the fact that we could come together and have a great big wedding, the big wedding is not important. The marriage is, because we are not saying till death do us part to the wedding. The wedding is one day. The marriage is for a lifetime. This is Beverly Briggs, just encouraging you tonight that we are sociable beings. We are beings created by love, for love, and intimacy. And so giving up on marriage is not the answer, but being able to look at what we are doing wrong and being able to make intelligent decisions that would cause us to have better marriages. I want to remind you that Christine Brooke, who is my co-host on Real Talk, first, I want to remind you that Real Talk will be back on air on June the 3rd. Yes, we're coming in on a Thursday because June the 3rd marks an anniversary for me, and you would know what that anniversary is later on. But we will be coming back on. And so you can look forward for Real Talk. We are regrouping, and we will be back on the 3rd of June. I want you to remember also that Christine Brooke is launching her book in a bit, I Choose Joy. And you can go on Real Talk and look for her testimony or her story to know the journey that she went through to reach that place where she wrote that book, I Choose Joy. And she has also launched her course. And so I encourage you to get in contact with Christine Brooke. We would put all the information in the comments on a later date, but get in contact with her and do her course, because she have been really, really resilient, and she goes by the name Resiliency Queen, and she will help you to on your journey and to understand how to be resilient even in this time where we find it so difficult to we find it a bit stressful, and losing our jobs. There are so many different family issues. She would help you to be able to deal with your trauma and to be able to get out of your trauma victorious, and you can move from that place of being a victim to be a victor. I am Beverly Briggs, your host, and you can reach me at Real Talk or Pearl Foundation. I I'm the founder of Pearl Foundation, and I really do encourage us to look out for each other. Again, Unscripted Voice started 14 minutes ago. I encourage you to tune in to look for Unscripted Voice on Facebook and tune in, as we would receive very good uh, advice from the persons who are speaking, and we would also be a source of encouragement and support for them. Says Beverly Briggs saying bye for now, y'all. Remember, our future belongs to us. Have a good one.